In everybody to Fantasy Fridays. We are here for week 16 semifinals for most of you guys as far as the fantasy playoffs are concerned. Manny is back here. We, of course, are here to give you the starts that you will need to put into your lineups to hopefully get you into that fantasy championship. Manny, since the last time that we spoke, both of our teams got eliminated from the playoffs, and I am doing something that I haven't done really, obviously, since I met you, honestly, and that is draft prepping before Christmas. This is not a great place to be. I'll say that. How you feeling, man?
Well, unlike you, this is familiar territory for me. So I'm not too removed from those days, but you're not quite in the same boat, but welcome. Welcome.
Yeah, man, it's like I'm rooting for Tyler Palco again. I'm like, all right, we're gonna see who's gonna be playing for out the string for these last 3 games, man. Just hopefully you get some Jalen Royal snaps. That's all I'm hoping for. Real life football may be a little bit disappointing, but of course we are here for fantasy and a chance to win a few championships, of course, for both of us. So let's go ahead and kick it off. I'll begin with my quarterback start of the week. I'm going to go to somebody that's been very much reliable down the stretch here, Jacoby Brissett versus the Atlanta Falcons. I like the matchup as far as is concerned. Even in a tough matchup last week, obviously versus the Texas defense, he still got the garbage time points, which they count all the same as far as this time of year is concerned. And ultimately, he has continued to be one of the better fantasy quarterbacks over the back half of the schedule. I think that he's in another spot to go ahead and have a good day again. Manny, who's your fantasy quarterback of the week?
I love it. I'm going to go Bryce Young. I think he has a great matchup this week. Definitely, has to bounce back after a pretty bad loss last week. But he has Jalen Coker running, and he has T Mac coming back healthy. He's been logging in full practices as of today, so I think they're going to get back up and rolling this week with a good matchup.
Sounds good. Look, I do like that matchup versus Tampa Bay. Obviously, we saw what Kirk Cousins was able to do. Bryce has started to find something. Obviously, we've seen a little bit Jalen Coker end up emerging as well in that Carolina Panthers offense. I like that matchup. Go ahead, hit me with your running back start of the week.
Running back, I'm going to have to go with Jawar Jordan here. I know
Okay.
he's kind of deep, but also he's kind of thrust into that spot with the injuries going down. Nick Chubb, and then now with Woody Marks, he's going to have a lot of volume, and not only that, he has a great matchup this week. So I think just like we saw him last week, I think he has a big day.
Yeah, look, Texans should be able to dominate that matchup. Johnson will be in a position to be able to put up points for you, like you said, according to the volume that he should give with Marks and Chubb, at the very least, questionable, but probably out, for this game. And we'll see moving forward how that ends up coming to fruition. As far as my running back start of the week, I'm going to go with Kenneth Gainwell. He is getting an astronomical target share as far as that is concerned within the offense. And obviously, this is a little bit more of a PPR play than standard play as far as that aspect. But I believe that versus Detroit Lions, they have a stingy run defense, which means that I think you're going to see a lot of using the running backs out of the backfield. I think that Warren is still a fine start. But I think Kenneth Gainwell is going to be the person that Aaron Rodgers continues to lean on through the air to try and move the ball on a consistent basis. And it seems like he's getting a little bit more of that red zone work that is obviously incredibly valuable this time of year. So as far as my wide receiver start of the week, I'm going to go to San Francisco, Juwan Jennings. Obviously, we saw Ricky Pearsall due to a hip drop tackle and go out of last week's game. George Kittle's obviously going to get his targets. Christian McCaffrey obviously going to get his targets. However, I love this matchup versus the Indianapolis Colts, who have struggled a little bit versus wide receivers. Jennings does have the trust of Brock Purdy. I expect that Jennings will be the person as far as a wide receiver room that will lead them in targets and have good production and a good matchup, in my personal opinion. Who are you going with for your wide receiver start of the week?
I feel like every time I'm on here, or at least every other time, I go with this guy, and I'm going to go with Jamison Williams. I know at this point, you're starting him because he's been pretty much one of the top wide receivers over the past 5 weeks. But he has a great matchup this week. I think he's going to be the start of the week. Um, definitely make sure he's in your lineup.
And look, absolutely a great matchup, certainly for the Lions wide receivers in general. Amon Ross should be in the smash spot. Jameson Williams does have some opportunities to get after that Pittsburgh Steelers defense as well through the air. It only takes a few explosives to him, as we know, and he's one of the most electric players in the National Football League. Who are you going with for your tight end start of the week?
With Rome Dunze and then Luther Burton being out, I think Colston Loveland is going to get thrust into that spot. Obviously, DJ Moore is going to get his volume by default, but I think Colston Loveland's been emerging over the past couple weeks, and Yeah, he has a great matchup too. So I think he's going to get the volume. They run a lot of 12 personnel, so Cole Kmet's still going to obviously. He's been working his way back into practice. I don't think it'll matter too much. I actually think that's great for Colson Loveland. He's going to get the volume at receiver. This could be his breakout game.
Look, absolutely. I think that that's the way that you want to attack this Packers defense, especially in the way in which you've seen them use Loveland in the past. I think this is going to be a very key spot for him getting pepper with targets within that Ben Johnson scheme, to say the least. As far as my tight end start of the week, look, I'll be honest with you guys. This is going to sound like a little bit of shaky play given some recent news. I'm still sticking with them. I think Darren Waller versus Cincinnati Bengals, who have been the worst team in the National Football League versus tight ends as far as fantasy scoring is concerned, is in a spot to go ahead and have a really good game. I understand the concern. No to a Quinn Ewers. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't think the offense is going to change much. This is going to be Quinn Ewers getting the ball out of his hands very quickly. Where do you get the ball out of your hands as far as a young quarterback? To the running back and the tight ends. It's not a lot of stuff outside the numbers as far as that is concerned. That is exactly where you want to attack the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that Darren Waller is going to be getting a lot of first read targets as far as what Mike McDaniel was going to be putting together for the game plan. And even with Quinn Ewers back there, I think that Darren Waller is going to have a good game. So appreciate you guys for joining up. Best of luck in your fantasy